We are getting close to the theatrical premiere of Digital Circus Episode 9, and there will be much more behind the ending of Episode 9 than most imagine, as we were given 3 early clues about how everything might end. It all starts with the idea that, just like another popular web series we will talk about later, the Digital Circus finale could reset the entire story. But what does this really mean? And how do we know we should expect something like this in the finale? It all started with an important detail that fans discovered, which was actually hidden since episode 8. It turns out that during the scene where Kinger checks the Digital Circus files on the computer before deleting Kane, a very specific line of code appeared that many overlooked. In it, a list of Digital Circus backup points A, B, and C was mentioned. Something similar to video game save points that a player can return to whenever they want. This small detail revealed to us that the circus members might have the ability to go back in time and live inside those backups, instead of remaining trapped in the senseless and hopeless chaos that seems to be shown in the episode 9 trailer. But what exactly does this tell us about the ending? It turns out this idea perfectly matches something that had already been confirmed by both the series creator, Gooseworks, and one of the show's voice actors. Gooseworks recently commented that the series finale was being set up as the weirdest, most experimental, and disturbing episode in the entire story. Shortly after, Kane's voice actor responded by making a very specific reference to a completely different series, Twin Peaks: The Return. And this series is remembered precisely for the shocking and weird way it ended. There clearly had to be a connection between that ending and the Digital Circus finale for Kane's actor to mention it. And this is where the next important clue comes in. This new clue practically confirmed that the Digital Circus finale would be something totally unpredictable. And that fits perfectly with Twin Peaks: The Return, since that series also surprised everyone with an unexpected ending. But the most interesting part is that it also shared a very similar idea to the backup points. In Digital Circus, we are shown the possibility that the characters can travel to these save points as if they were entering an alternate reality. And in Twin Peaks: The Return, the protagonist also ends up entering an alternate reality at the end of the series. That was the big connection Kane's actor was trying to hint at. All of this seems to indicate that in the Digital Circus finale, the idea of backup points will return in a huge way. But to what specific moment in the past would the characters return? And how do we know this could actually happen? It turns out Gooseworks has been hinting at this idea since the beginning of the series. In fact, she herself revealed a while ago that she had been hiding clues about a very important moment in the future using small details from previous episodes. And all those clues seem to point to the exact same moment in the circus's past. The same moment that many believe will return in the final episode, the pilot, the beginning of everything. It turns out that this episode has been the most referenced in the entire series as the finale approaches. We have even seen almost identical scenes recreated again in episode 8, as if Digital Circus were starting to come full circle and return to the beginning of the entire story, as if we were finally going to see the circus members return to the start of this whole cycle, to the true beginning of the series in episode 9. An ending where the characters would return to the pilot episode's save point to restart the entire cycle once again. But how do we know we will really see something like this in the finale? It turns out that in addition to all the clues that perfectly connect to this theory, we also received another sneak peek of the ending, and curiously, it came from a completely different series, one of the main inspirations behind Digital Circus. The fact is that several of the series that inspired the Digital Circus had already predicted certain events before they happened in the story. For example, one of the most mentioned works as an inspiration for the Digital Circus is I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. This story features an out-of-control artificial intelligence that psychologically punishes a group of characters, exactly like what we later saw in the Digital Circus. At the end of episode 8, we saw how Kane punished each circus member using their worst fears. This shows how the work that inspired the series could have foreshadowed important parts of the story. But there is another series that also helped inspire the amazing digital circus and that almost no one talks about. A series that could reveal how the show will actually end. That series is Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. For those who don't know it, DHMIS follows a structure very similar to Digital Circus. Both series seem like colorful and friendly shows at first, almost childish, but little by little, everything becomes much darker, chaotic, and unexpected. And the connections between the two go much further than that. In fact, some episodes of the Digital Circus seem to mirror almost exactly situations that had already happened before in DHMIS. For example, in episode 4 of Digital Circus, we see the work segment where Jax receives a sort of correction through an informational video after behaving like a bad employee. This is practically identical to what happens to Duck in the first episode of DHMIS when he has trouble adapting to his new job at the factory. We also saw how Gangle, one of the main characters of the Digital Circus, begins to lose control upon becoming the new manager of the workplace, something very similar to what happens to Red Guy in DHMIS. Furthermore, both episodes revolve around the idea of a workplace accident. But then, if both series have so many similarities, how do we know that DHMIS could also be connected to the ending of Digital Circus? Well, everything points to a very specific date that appears in the series. If you didn't know, the date June 19th was presented in DHMIS as a mysteriously important date throughout the entire story, although at first, no one understood why. But what if I told you that this exact same date is the exact day the Digital Circus finale will be released on YouTube? Why would Glitch Productions choose that exact same day if the connection to DHMIS didn't mean anything? And not only that, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared ends in the same way that many believe Digital Circus will end, with a complete reset of the story, making everything start all over again, repeating the cycle that began from the first episode. Both series seem to be building an infinite loop specifically related to June 19th, but there was still one last important mystery about the ending of Digital Circus. The truth behind the flashback scenes that started being shown in the recent episode 9 trailer. And it's that besides the return of Ribbit, which already seems to have been confirmed by what we saw in the previews, there was also talk of other secret characters from the circus's past. Characters who supposedly appeared on a partial cast list for episode 9, which would have been leaked ahead of time. Watch this video on my channel to discover the new leaks for Digital Circus episode 9.